Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Bleav in Baylor. I am Alvin Cowan, actor, writer, podcaster, and washed-up quarterback, here to cover all things for your soon-to-be Big 12 champs, little old Baylor Bears from Waco, Texas. We are counting down to Friday night lights in a blackout game versus Auburn at McLean Stadium on August 29th. By the time you hear this, there will only be about 2 weeks left before we kick it off against the Tigers. So today we're asking one key question. Who are the breakout candidates that can take this season from good to great? Every Baylor campaign has those names that snap a fan's head around in week 3 and stay in the headlines. Think Abram Smith in 2021, Sawyer Robertson in 2024. But this year, who is going to step up and step into that spotlight? Before we dive into that, be sure to subscribe. Let me try that again. Be sure to subscribe to our show to get all the latest from us, as well as checking me out on social media. I am at the Alvin Cowan on all the socials. So before we go into who are the candidates for breakout player, let's define what a breakout player really is. We're not just talking about productivity, although that's expected, but a sudden leap, somebody that changes games, makes headlines, and gets into the NFL scouts' notebooks. In my opinion, a breakout does 3 things. It impacts the scoreboard. We're talking about touchdowns. We're talking about forcing stops. We're talking about turnovers. It shifts perspective. Somebody who is a breakout shifts perspective on themselves and potentially even on the program. Media buzz, midseason award chatter, talking about volume, fan volume at McLean. These are the people that you're talking about on campus. A breakout player changes narratives. We're not just talking about good Baylor football. We're talking about great Baylor football. Those names matter. They give teams momentum. When a player breaks out, they surprise opponents. They create the element of surprise that you can only find when guys are flying underneath the radar. So who are candidates? Well, maybe let's start with the highest hanging fruit in the backfield, Bryson Washington. We all know, unfortunately, at this point about the injury to Dawson Pendergrass, and I feel bad for that young man. I've gotten injured, lost 8 games in a season. It sucks. I respect and appreciate Bryson's attitude of next man up, although I know when I was the injured guy, I hated that mantra. True freshman and 4-star Caden Knighton. It makes me really nervous in a big game like against Auburn to open the season to put a true freshman who's never played a collegiate snap out there. He's getting a lot of reps as the backup. But the injury to Pendergrass means that Washington's going to be our feature back. He's on the Doak Walker Award watch list. He finished 2024 with over 1,000 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns, despite only playing in 11 games and leaving the Texas Bowl game in the first quarter. He had 218 all-purpose yards and 4 TDs against TCU and 116 yards and 2 TDs against Texas Tech. But you got to ask, were those flashes or are those consistency? Can he weather 30 carries a game? He averaged over 100 yards in 6 games. In 2025, he is the unquestioned feature back behind the offensive line that we talked about and have talked about ad nauseum. I think if Washington hits 1,300 plus yards and leads the Big 12 in rushing TDs, that's not just breakout. It's dominance. And that's the kind of performance that really opens up an opposing defense and really helps Sawyer Robertson and the receivers thrive. A few more statistics on Washington. Against power fronts, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Sub 5 yards per carry on zone scheme snaps. He's a weapon, folks. He's a weapon. And you might not consider him a breakout candidate, but I added him to this list. He's probably the favorite. Josh Cameron, again, when you talk about returning and receiving and special teams yardage, of course, he's already very established there. He led Baylor in 2024 with 52 receptions, 754 yards, and 10 touchdowns. But here's the key. Cameron has a knack for third down conversions. He's the guy on third down that we're looking for. That to me is the statistic that we're looking at with Josh Cameron. What is his third down catch rate? As Baylor implements the entire air raid system and Coach Spav gets his guys on the same page, we need those chains movers. Guys defensive still respect. Can he get more red zone targets? Hit 900 or 1,000 yards? That's a breakout. And more importantly, to me, where Cameron is a breakout player is if he raises the stakes in those gauntlet matchups. If he shows up in those games, watch out. He's an X factor both on offense and on special teams. Last on offense, and don't sleep on him, is Ryan Lingle. Shout out to Dallas Jesuit. Got some homies that went there. They'll appreciate that. Baylor's returner at left guard, one of the 4 offensive linemen aren't flashy, but they win games. Lingle's the kind of player who raises his grade quality. He's an anchor. If Baylor's offense jumps into the top 20 in rushing and protects Robertson at the highest clip in the Big 12, that goes through unselfish guys like the left guard. I think Lingle's top ceiling is a top 10 guard by the end of the year, an NFL career. Something you'll see in the statistics of others. Washington, Robertson come to mind. And this is key, 4th down and short calls. Where do we put the football? I'd say over him. When we get in tight situations, are we going over him? He has that potential. On defense, let's talk about Texas A&M transfer lineman Samu Tamaupepe. Samu Tamaupepe. I'll get there. Your boy is big. We're talking about a massive human being listed at 6'3", 376 pounds. You're talking about a guy who's getting a lot of publicity on social media, rightfully so, but he hasn't played much. I think he has the ability to be a disruptive force inside and change offensive game plans. He also has to be on the field. To break out, I'd say the guy has to log, Samu has to log 40 to 50 snaps a game minimum. I think if he hits 8+ tackles for loss and maybe 5 sacks, that's a breakout for me. He does that, I think we're well on our way to answering some of the questions that a lot of us have about our defense. Carl Williams is next. Mr. Williams plays star, one of the hybrid linebacker and defensive back positions, and the man most responsible for deciding whether we are loaded up in the box or outside the box. He's the leverage player, guys. He has to guard opposing slots, tight ends, even occasional running backs out of the backfield. That's a challenging position. It's also a playmaking position. It's also a position where, unfortunately, and this was true with Carl, there's a high potential for injury. You're playing against bigger guys. You're playing against faster guys. You're playing against more maneuverable guys, and you got to guard them all. You got to stick your nose in the face of a running back coming downhill with a head of steam. You also got to be able to guard that same guy when he makes a wheel route. Williams missed 4 games last year. He has to stay healthy. It's imperative. It's imperative that Carl Williams has a big season. You know we're rolling if Carl Williams is making plays. Last but not least on special teams, I already talked about Josh Cameron's return ability, so it's not really a breakout per se, but a guy that needs to have a massive year is Palmer Williams, our punter. He is a weapon. He's already one of the best in the league in country. He's got tons of accolades. Preseason Third team All-American preseason. Why he's the third team All-American, I don't understand, since he had one of the best punting years in all of college football last year. But he's the preseason All-Big 12 pick as the punter. We got to have him. If Palmer Williams is changing field positions at 40, 50 yards a punt, he is a breakout star for us. So there you have it. One explosive running back, one polished wide receiver, one offensive line anchor, one D-line disruptor, one defensive leader, and one weapon at punter. My pick for the X Factor, I'm going to go with Bryson Washington. I'm going to say Bryson Washington leads the Big 12 in rushing touchdowns. Yeah, it might be a bit of a cop-out with the Pendergrass injury, I admit. But I think Bryson Washington's going to win us a game or two on the ground. A game or two that we might otherwise lose because we can run the football. Lingle was my second choice. I now hate that I'm committed to Washington because I think Lingle's a hell of a player. So is Washington. Anyway, your turn. Which player are you betting on to break this? Betting on this year to break out? DM me at the Alvin Cowan or drop a comment. I'll feature your picks in the next episode, listener mailbag. And that's a wrap today, folks, on Bleav in Baylor. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss one of these deep dives. And be sure to rate, review, and share with every Baylor fan. You won't want to miss the next one. I'm Alvin Cowan, at the Alvin Cowan on all the socials, and sick 'em Bears.